Hello, this is Qyalms visiting again from the Grim Wayside, and today we're going to be opening Momotale's Lily of the Valley Whisper series. She is a 1/8 MJD action figure. So, where on this channel we had been opening what were 1/12 size BJDs mainly. Um, these new dolls that have been coming out are more 1/8 size. This is the Nysa series 1/12 size doll. This is the Pennies box doll that recently came out. It's a 1/8 BJD. So in addition to being a slightly larger doll than we've been opening, but you can see just very slightly larger. She's going to be an MJD, which is more similar to this is the, I believe, Past in Sicily dolls, where he is a mechanically jointed doll. So instead of having elastic through their joints, she should be having joints that are used with either like little pegs or little hinges. So, in addition to the fact that she's going to be a different size and a different type of doll than we normally open, I'm very excited to see her because she is one of the first sub 100 dolls that I've seen that has fiber hair, so combable hair instead of the molded plastic hair that most of the 1/12 size, 1/8 size BJDs come out with. Do look forward to a future video where we'll be opening Sugary Girls dolls. Those are also 1/8, and I do believe they're also mechanically jointed dolls like the Momotales doll. So let's go ahead and open Lily of the Valley. Right now on Kikagoods, she is about $45. And right now you can buy um, only individual dolls where you know what doll it is. There are no blind boxes currently available. So there are two others that are considered sort of special series. One is an Alice in Wonderland themed doll. The other doll is sort of a beachy themed or lingerie themed doll. And then the other 3, I'm not sure if they're just photo, samples that they have, but you can buy them each individually. One of them's got kind of a cute little vibe where she has these, like, chonky little glasses and a little, tracksuit. She's very cute. But Lily of the Valley, so opening her up, she has a really nice box. It's really more of a keepsake box almost. You could almost use it for something else. It's really well made. The first thing that we have in here is a card with her picture on it, and it has a slightly iridescent shimmer to the card itself. And then on the back, it has a picture of the lily of the valley. Get her out. It's a very pretty box, honestly. Most of the BJD boxes that I open, they end up in a giant pile in my garage. But this one's quite pretty. It's kind of a lovely display box, actually. So on the one side, you have a picture of the doll again. She's very has a very romantic feel to her, like a very country style Lolita. On the back, there's some information about the materials that she's made of. A lot of it's in Chinese. The authenticity hologram sticker is on the back side. And then on the front, it just has that pretty picture of the doll. So, also in the box, we've got her outfit with her shoes. She has some really pretty molded shoes. There is a card that gives information about the sizes of each of the main measurements for the doll if you want to pick clothing for her. And then on the back, there's quite a bit of Chinese text, which I'll have to use Google Translate to look at later. Okay, so the doll herself, she's actually quite tall. She's much taller than I had thought she would be. So where this is a 1/8 size according to Penny's box, and is just slightly larger than the 1/12 size dolls, she is quite large. She's a lot more similar to the Sicily doll, which did not have a size, so she's somewhere between these 2. But of course, she's still much smaller than a traditional 1/6 size doll. This is a 1/6 size Little Fae from Doll Fairyland. She's a dark elf Sue. So while they're still much smaller than a 1/6 size doll, this 1/8 size doll is a lot closer to the Sicily doll than it is to what is considered a 1/8 size Penny's box doll. And then, of course, next to the Nysa series, which is a 1/12 size, she is quite tall compared to her. Okay, so I don't actually know what this is. I think it's hairstyling implements. So she's got a very fine, tiny comb with a long handle. And then there's a number of hair elastics in here. And then some kind of oil that's like leaked all over inside of this bag with some kind of hair oil, I guess, to keep her hair from getting tangled, maybe? Gosh, I'm not sure what to do with this actually. Leaking inside of itself. Her hair has one braid in it. It's quite long. It goes all the way down to her mid calf, and it's a very light blonde. It's extremely shiny. So I imagine the oil is probably to apply to her hair to keep it from getting tangled. Her hair is not quite as soft as the softest Barbie hair that you can purchase now, but it's still pretty silky. I would say that I would be concerned about using oil on any plastics. The longevity of that, a lot of oils, depending on what kind it is, can eat away at plastic long term. So, depending on whether or not it's kind of a mineral oil or like more of a petroleum based oil, I would be concerned about what it would do to the doll in a long term basis, whether or not it would affect the plastic in both the doll's body as well as the doll's hair. So, using the little comb on her hair, um, yeah, the comb is perfectly capable of combing her hair. She has a slight crimp to her hair. The wave in it is pretty large, so it's not sure like it's quite scaled to a doll's body. Like I would have liked the crimp if it were going to be wavy to be a little bit smaller. And it looks like I'm not sure if these hairs are loose. It doesn't feel like they're loose, but it does look like there's some unevenness to the bottom of her hair. And then there's a few hairs that are much longer than the other ones. So I'm probably going to give her a quick little hair trim to sort of clean up the bottom edge of her hair. Um, I'm really curious how her hair stays on her head. Normally, when you have a BJD, and they have a fiber hair, it's quite often it's a separate wig cap that you'll usually apply like a silicone cap or um, some kind of material to the doll's head that keeps the wig from slipping off. But this appears to actually be rooted into a separate plastic cap. Let me see if I can figure out how to take it off. So the plastic that it's rooted into is a slightly darker color. It's closer to the blonde of the actual hair. And I just put on these fingernails. I really don't want to ruin them trying to pry this off. Let's see if the handle of the hairbrush. There we go. Okay. So this is really interesting. So she does have a vinyl cap that makes up the back of her head. And you can see where the hair has been sewn into the head. It almost looks it's really interesting. It's not just like loose wefts in here. I'm not sure. It's very interesting how it's been sewn into the head. There doesn't appear to be any extra glue holding it in. It appears like the actual stitching. Almost, I wonder, normally they use a machine to stitch into these vinyl heads. And then they apply some kind of glue to the inside that keeps the hair from pulling out. but this almost looks like the hair was pulled through. I really don't know. It appears to be manufactured in a way that I'm unfamiliar with these dolls. But, the hair is rooted directly into the cap, and that cap does make the back of her head. And this cap just slips down over the rim of the front of her face. When you look inside of her head, you can see that there are no eye holes or anything. There's not even any room for like an S hook or anything. So her head is not going to be compatible with putting it on any other body. Her head just appears to have a hole that slips over this peg that's in her neck, and that's how her head stays on. The eyes are painted on or applied rather like sort of a silk screen sort of sticker. They are very pretty. You can buy several, or you could buy replacement faces that include different colored eyes and different expressions on Kikagoods. Currently, they say that they are sold out. There's a email link for notification when they come back in. But for each one of the separate dolls, there are three of them. There are three face choices, making nine additional faces that are available for purchase at some point. This one has sort of a green brown eyes with a sort of dark kind of eyelash, um, but along sort of the blonde color over her eyes. She has very pink cheeks. And in addition to her sort of sad, sleepy eyes, she has sort of a small, sleepy mouth. She doesn't have any other blushing anywhere else on her body. Go ahead and put her hair back on. Should be easy. Yeah, it just pops right on there. So it should be fairly easy to change her face, and it should be fairly easy to exchange hair between each of the dolls. And the head is extremely easy to remove. It just pops off of the little peg, and that should make dressing her very easy. The hair without the oil doesn't seem to tangle very much, so it appears, that this is going to be pretty easy to manage. In addition to the long hair in the back, her bangs are shorter, and then she has sort of hime style side bangs that fall, just beneath her chin. So there's a slight hime style to her bangs. Let's take a look at her hands. She right now has open hands, and they should just pull off, I think. Yeah, so they pull off. They're not as tight as some of the other, um, dolls. The Chemo 12 dolls, those for sure, you had to actually soak the hands in hot water in order to get them off without breaking the internal structure of the doll. These hands, pop off much easier than that, but it was still quite a tug to get them off. She has 2 open hands on when she comes out of the box. And in the little packet, she's got, um, it looks like little gripping hands. Can actually change her hands. Let's pull them out. So she has a pair of heart hands, a pair of finger pointing hands, some victory pose, and then she has some closed sort of gripper hands. They look like they could hold an accessory of some sort. She doesn't come with any of those accessories, but they do look like they could be used for holding them. So let's go ahead and put one of these closed hands on her wrist, and it pops on fairly easily. And then I think we'll just leave the other hand, her flat open hand. So she does come with these little extra elastics. So there's like three pink ones, a green one, and a light blue one, which is a nice touch. We'll put her comb up there, her hands and her comb. We'll put all that right there. Okay. So taking a look at the body just before we dress her, she is a mechanical BJD. So She has, instead of elastic joints, she has hinged joints instead. The Dolphy Dreams were one of the first sort of mechanical skeleton dolls. She doesn't have a separate skeleton inside. Her body is part of her skeleton, but you can see that she has a double hinge in her elbows. She has a pinned hinge in her shoulders. She has a very small upper torso compared to example for the well endowed Penny's box BJD that was purchased. She's quite small on top. Her wrists are do rotate, so she does have a sliding hinge in her wrist. Inside, her lower abdomen and her upper chest appear to be linked together by a pin that starts in her upper torso and then has a similar joint to this one in her neck that clicks into her lower torso. At her hips, she has ball joints, and I'm not sure the ball joint itself moves. I think the leg just moves around it, but it moves around it very smoothly. The leg joint itself is of a much shinier material and I think harder material than the body itself. In her knees, she has, again, similar to her elbow, sort of a double hinged joint, except her hinges, she has, instead of having a single sort of hinge at either end of little joint piece, like in her elbow, it appears like she has a hinge to one side for the upper leg and then a hinge to one side for the lower leg that both click into the same piece, which is kind of interesting. It's a very smooth moving joint. And honestly, the front of the joint looks really nice. It's very smooth. It doesn't have a lot of the awkwardness that an open joint for like a normal BJD will sometimes have. Then in her ankles, they're similar joints to her wrists, which they are, the single ball that's split in half. And so one half acts as a hinge with the other half. And then her toes actually have a little pinned hinge joint in them so that she can point her toes if she needed to wear like high heel shoes, for example, or some kind where she can point her toes way down if for some reason that's the very awkward position you wanna have her sitting in. So those feet very much resemble the ones that are on the Sicily doll. They have almost the exact same hinged, foot joint that the Momotale doll does. We'll start with her socks. Since they're right here. They are just long, stretchy material. They are sewn into the shape of a foot or a leg roughly with no hem at the top. Okay. So now with her stockings on, they appear to be made of the cloth that lots of the companies are selling now for their anti-staining um, clothing, which is usually sort of a bodysuit that covers the entirety of the doll from wrists to ankles. And it's a very similar fabric to that. It's very stretchy. It appears to have a sort of self-sealing edge across the top, which I don't know, kind of looks like it might fray. The seam itself is not really back stitched at the top of the legging of the stocking, so it looks like that seam might start to come apart. It's not particularly clean at the top, but it's going to be mostly hidden under the dress. So unless you're manipulating it often, it's probably not going to be an issue. Her dress is a little sleeveless one piece. So the top is open. It has a short piece of doll Velcro in white clear on the top. The bodice is a sort of thin, matte colored, like cotton or plain polyester fabric. It's pretty thin. Um, and it has pinstripes down the front, or pin tucking, I should say. It has like a pin tucked embellishment along the front with three silver, I think they're just little beads that have been applied to the front that are supposed to look like little buttons. There's the slightest sort of collar on it. It's a little uneven, but I think it does keep the seam looking tidy around the neck. She is hemmed around the armholes, and it is attached to a grayish green overskirt. That skirt has a waistband that's sewn in, and it's at that waistband where the seam in the back stops. So it's not a seam that's open all the way from top to bottom in the skirt. The gray skirt, there's a little extra string sticking out here. I'm gonna have to trim off. Just clean that up. No extra loose string. The green skirt is not hemmed, and it doesn't feel like it has any sort of fray stop on it. And there's a slight fraying to the edge as it is. If you can see it in the front, there are some little threads that are coming off. So that's a bit of a disappointment. I guess it kind of gives it part of that rustic feel she's supposed to have, is sort of like this country style Lolita. But it would have been better if maybe you can see it better on the dark background there. You can see that there's some little threads that are already coming off of the skirt. It hasn't had any sort of treatment to keep the threads from fraying. The underskirt has at least had a lace trim applied to it. The bottom is not hemmed, but there is sort of a rough edge that almost feels like it's been cut and burned. So this is maybe more of a polyester, a synthetic, and then they used some kind of heat treating cutting tool to cut the actual fabric. It has that sort of like catching rough edge on it. And then they applied a simple lace trim over the top to sort of cover that up. That probably would have been a better idea for the top gray skirt that's already starting to fray. On the inside, there's nothing special going on. The seams around the armholes have been at least hemmed down. There's some like longer loose threads, but you won't really see them once you actually put the dress on the doll. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. She did not come with any sort of underwear. Okay. So the way the top fits, it's straight up and down. And so it's got more of a boat neck almost opening at the top. So the neckline is very loose compared to where the head goes, which is fine. That's an aesthetic choice. That's fine. It's a little lopsided in its construction. So like the construction's not perfect. It's honestly probably not that far from what the Nysa series dolls, which had some construction issues in their outfits. It's probably not too far from the situation with the Nysa series, but at least this does fit. It fits on her very well. She's a very small doll, so it's not really surprising that the top is going to fit. She also comes with this really cute apron. So the two side panels do not, they have a cotton ruffle applied to the bottom. The front panel has an additional, I think it's supposed to be, maybe it's supposed to be pin tucked hem. but it's not like exactly laying down flat. So there's sort of an odd embellishment just right above the ruffle on the front that I think is supposed to be laying down a little differently than it actually is. The side panels are attached to the front with these three green ribbons, which are sewn into the seams on the back. They are sewn closed, so they're not going to come untied. And on the very front, beneath the two straps and beneath the waistband, is an embroidery of Lily of the Valley, and it's tied together with a sort of gray, greenish bow at the bottom. The Lily of the Valley embroidery is on when you're holding it on the right side of that front panel of the skirt. And then there is a single snap that holds the apron closed. She doesn't really have shoulders for these straps to hold on to, so they're not really functioning. Um, the waistband is the part that's functioning as holding the apron to the doll. And so, since her top is so small, if these straps feel a little awkward, like they're trying to function as detached sleeves almost. She has a Lolita style headband, and unlike what I'm used to in terms of, usually these are tied onto their heads, this appears to be a stiff sort of headband. It doesn't have any sort of elastic or give to it. It's a piece of plastic to which the ruffle and then a green bow has been applied. This light minty colored bow and satin ribbon has been applied to a ruffle that's then glued directly onto sort of a headband. And I don't know how well it'll stay on like during play because her hair is so slippery shiny. The last piece of clothing that came in the plastic bag are these little wrist cuffs. And they are a very stiff material that has been a very short seam sewn across them to keep them closed, and then a little silver button has been applied. I think I need to take her hands off in order to actually put these on. Okay. So the hands are a bit rubbery, so there's no real danger in breaking off any fingers or anything when you put them on. Um, you just do have to be careful about yanking on the wrists to make sure you're not actually pulling on the joint, but trying to isolate that you're pulling on just the hand from the peg when you're changing the hands on there. The last piece that she comes with are these little molded shoes. So they appear to be little slight platform heels with a brown sort of cinnamony colored bottom. And then these are separately molded pieces of plastic on top made to look like ribbons. So there's a light gray bow, or I should say it's a light green bow on top and a light green bow in the back. They are molded, they are not actual fabric, but they do replicate that look really well. And then the shoe itself is a slightly darker green with a little crisscross on it. The shoes do have right and left side. I think. I think they do. So I think this is proper. And the shoes just fit on quite easily. So now that she's fully dressed, let's slip all this stuff over here to the side. Put that back on. So, what do I think of her? We'll put her over here next to the Sicily doll in terms of height. She appears after she's dressed much, much bigger than him, um, which makes her seem much, much bigger than this 12th size doll and still much bigger than this other 1/8 size doll. So 1/12, this is from the Nicest series. 1/8, this is from Penny's box. 1/8, Momotale's sized doll, and then this is the Past in Sicily doll. So, uh, I think she's really pretty. I'm not sure she's worth the full price of $45. Her outfit feels a little cheap compared to that, but that is partly adjusted for tariff pricing. All the dolls probably would be $10 cheaper at a minimum if we weren't in some kind of weird tariff pricing situation. I question the construction of the dress where certain things aren't seamed or hemmed quite as well. And then her hair has kind of a odd flatness in the front. These bangs appear very, very long on her forehead. So the proportions feel a little strange um, in terms of the doll. I think her shoes are superior quality. I really like how they added the molded details of the ribbons. They look very realistic on the actual shoes. And she comes in a really nice box. So, I think she would be a nice gift doll for someone if you were looking to purchase sort of a cheap BJD. Her mechanical joints appear perfectly functional. I really like the way her, knees operate. They felt very smooth, and they look really nice, which is, kind of a sad disappointment then that they're covered by the stockings. And the other dolls, I believe, also have really high stockings or they have like tracksuit pants. But I think that she's a cute doll. I would have preferred to pay a little less. I find it really interesting the size comparisons between the other dolls that claim to be 1/8 size dolls or 1/12 size dolls. But yeah, this was the Momo Lily Whisper of the Valley. Um, or should I say Lily of the Valley Whispers, Momo's Tails doll. Hello, welcome back. It's officially been a couple weeks since I first opened this doll. This is Momotale's Lily of the Valley Whispers. She is different from a lot of the other dolls that I have, and I had feelings about it. I wasn't sure if she was too small. Sometimes I thought I didn't like her face. Sometimes I just couldn't decide how I felt about her. But she's been living on my desk with me at work, and she's become like my little friend. One of the things that is different about her is that she really has very different proportions from a lot of the other dolls. So this is a 1/8 size doll. This is Sugary Girls, and she's in a special outfit. This is like a Year of the Snake outfit that you could purchase. No, actually, this came as an extra if you purchase the full set of dolls. And then this is uh, from the Luluya Symphonic Poem series. Let me just move the box out of the way. She didn't have the same, like, giant cartoony features that some of the other doll series have. So this is Solar Sonata. This is Solar Sonata from the, Symphonic Poem series from Penny's box, Luluya series. I know that's confusing. Um, Solar Sonata, as you can see, she has a much chonkier body and a much chonkier face. This is from another 1/8 size doll from Sugary Girls series. Again, she feels much more cartoony, much larger. And so I felt she felt different from having some of the other dolls because she's smaller, more delicate, and maybe you can't really tell so much on the screen, but like her arms are very thin, her legs are very thin. And the other thing about her was that I wasn't crazy about her hair at first. I thought the bangs were a little thin, perhaps, and the back of her hair, the haircut was pretty egregious. So I did finally give it a haircut, and hopefully you can see now it's all at least one length. There's a little bit of layering in there because I didn't want to take too much of the length off. But initially, the haircut was really bad in the back. So I fixed her haircut and, her slightly more realistic proportions have really grown on me. She's almost like having a little fairy friend sitting on my table. She's almost like in less of a cartoon and more like a person. And I know that sounds weird, especially when you look at her eyes, and she's definitely got cartoony kind of eyes. I'm still maybe not crazy about how big her bangs are compared to her eyes. Maybe the face proportions are a little off from what I would like. But she's definitely grown on me, and she's my new little friend who sits on my desk with me. Solar Sonata is also on my desk. Um, Hidden Dreamy Lagoon, the hidden from the Sugary Girls series, she has a place on a shelf. So the one I wanted to talk about two things before we moved on from Momo Tales and never speak of her again. And the one was because her proportions are so different, I wanted to see if she could fit into any other 1/8 size clothing. And in terms of 1/8 size clothing, what I have are Sugary Girls outfits. And just looking at this makes me think that she's going to be much too small for this kimono and maybe too small or too slender for this little shirt pants set. So I'm curious to see what she looks like when we change that. The other thing, I did order off of AliExpress some heads, and these come with hair. There were a few different colors that you could order. This was a set of um, sort of lights or blondesy colors. And looking at them, there's a couple things that I really noticed. So you can see that this color, so this one's called like a flax green or something. It's a very ashy, cool tone blonde. This is a very warm honey sort of blonde. This one's obviously pink. And this one's a very light colored blonde. But the length of the hair is very different between them. And the haircuts are equally awful as to, or worse, probably worse than the one that was on the actual doll. So as you can see, this hair is much, much shorter than the doll's hair. So there's not a lot of leeway, especially in terms of giving this a new haircut. That the choppiness is just really, really bad. In terms of the heads, the they are sent with these closed eyes, unpainted faces. They do pop off just the same way as the normal dolls does. Um, and you want to start at the bottom back. I popped these off with a nail file before, but I don't have my nail file with me. I just have my skewer. And they are a stiff seam. I may not have the right tool for this right now. Here we go. Okay, so like the doll herself, the hair pops off. So if you ordered this set of 4 off of AliExpress, for example, or if you could find them somewhere else, you do have the option of customizing faces. You can also purchase just the faceplate part of the doll off of Kikagoods right now. There are 3 special color dolls. There's Lily of the Valley, and then there's like a pink one with a pink and blue outfit. I don't recall her name. And then there is a oh, what is the last one? She's like an Alice in Wonderland style one. And each one of those has 3 additional face options, and one of those face options is called a limited edition. I haven't purchased those yet. I didn't want to make a separate purchase for them. So if I purchase something from Kikagoods again in the future, I might pick up one of those face plates. I believe they were $5. But you can change the hair and you can redo the faces. But again, the haircut on these is just the worst. It's just a mangled mess. You can see then they're very inconsistent in length as well. Um, as you can see, this one is much longer. I feel like this one is one of the longer ones as well. It might even be longer than this one. And then the pink one again is pretty short. So the Momotales dolls do have a certain amount of customization that maybe even other dolls don't have. You can buy those extra face plates. You can buy these other wigs for them. And there are dark colored wigs as well. The same colored wigs that are for the standard 3 dolls. I believe one is called like Cicada Times. There's one, that I may get. She has a very sort of like cool, like rugged school. She's wearing like an athletic uniform and she's got these little cute black glasses. But she has black hair, for example. So there's a lot of different wigs you can get for her, but the quality of those wigs is really up in the air as to whether or not they're any good. So before we leave Momo Tails forever, let's go ahead and see if how she fits into one of these other 1/8 size outfits. Okay, so looking at her in this other 1/8 size outfit. So this is a really cute outfit from Sugary Girls. I didn't feel like changing out her socks, but I feel like looking at them, they're going to be plenty big enough. The socks are really cute, though. They have a ruffle around the top of the jersey sort of knit fabric. And then there's like a little metal pink bow that's stitched to each one. It's like a little charm that's actually stitched to it, which is very cute. The outfit itself is a one-piece furisode style kimono, that has, like, a very sweet Lolita pattern on it. There's macarons and sprinkles and cherries and some yellow thing, donuts. There's a little bear cupcake at the bottom here. The pattern is very cute. On the long furisode sleeves, there is just a tiniest green border at the top and then a white ruffle. And then there's two white bows, and that's true for both sides. They're very similar, and the pattern on them is mirrored, but it's the same pattern on the fabric. She has an obi that is a layer of the green and then the pink over the top of it. Around the center, like an obijime, there's a strip of white lace, and then there's a ruffle of white as well, and I'm not sure, it probably is actually upside down. I'd imagine the ruffle is probably supposed to be on the ruffle is supposed to be on the top. She has, a cool sort of patterned dot on the what would be the under kimono. The juban has a, dotted pattern on it, and then on the opposite side, it has a contrasting pink layer of the pattern. Over the top of it, they provided a little apron. The apron has 2 layers of ruffles on here. There's like a blue ruffle and a white ruffle and some straps. It has this sort of semi-satin large pink bow on it, and it has these 2 white or light pink satin bows over screen printed pockets. The little pockets are sort of a minty color, and they are just screen printed on, they're fake. And then the similar polka dotted fabric that's up on the jubon part of the kimono. There's a ruffle of that, and then there's a ruffle of stretchy green um, lace that's right under that. So she doesn't look too bad if you're looking at her from a distance, but she's kind of swimming in it. There's a lot of extra fabric going on here. So it's not the worst. Oh, and she has this really cute Lolita headband that's a ruffle of translucent lace and a ruffle of green lace with a pink bow that goes across the top and pink bows on either side with some elastic. Anyway, she is kind of swimming in it though. Um, Kimono are a little, I mean, that's kind of the way kimono are. They're not super fitted, um, but all the same, like, especially around her neck area, it's a lot of fabric. It does just fit her in terms of height, though, and in terms of the length of her arms. Those seem perfect. It's just that her proportions around are very small and she feels like she's swimming. But let's try on the cape outfit. So I don't know if you saw it, but during the dressing, one of her little gold buttons actually popped off and will need to be glued back on. Again, I didn't feel like changing her socks. So the socks that the outfit comes with are striped knit socks that are sort of knee highs. I just didn't feel like changing her stockings. The uh, cape that comes over the top has a pink bow on it. And it's interesting because It's a bow and show only. It's a series of, pieces of fabric, and none of the edges are finished, and it's starting to um, unravel a little bit. It's starting to fray a little bit. The neck does not have a closure at all, so you do absolutely have to remove the head in order to put it on. And it fits very tight up against the head. The collar is white, made out of the same stuff that the cape is made out of, and then there's a very small pink ruffle that goes around it. The cape itself has some nice pleats that make it lay nice against the body. It gives it some nice shoulders. I'm decided halfway through I was gonna take it back off again, so I didn't bother to put her hands back on, but I was surprised. The fit actually is perfect for her. Um, the top is snug and small and fits her just right. It has long pink sleeves with white satin ribbons around them. There's 2 layers of ruffles, a pink ruffle and a white ruffle. And then there's little faux buttons in gold on her sleeves. And then down the center of the shirt there is a white satin ribbon with ruffle on either side and a series of 4 gold buttons. She has a little collar underneath of there that's sort of high and it has ruffles on it. And in terms of the shorts, they're not quite a pumpkin pant, but they do have some pleats in them. They have a high waist, wide waistband that had 4 buttons on it in gold. Of course, have to put the other one back. And then the legs themselves have a white cuff and then a pink ruffle underneath of that. And each one has a little gold button on it as well. This one's a little bit in the wrong place, I think. So this is a cute outfit. So even though she looks thinner than and different in scale to a Sugary Girls doll, they actually have very similar body types, I guess. At least they have the very similar arm length. Uh, the length of the arm seems exactly the same. She might even have a slightly larger butt than the Sugary Girls doll did. But I haven't tried to put this outfit on a Sugary Girl. So it's possible that this fits a little more different, or it fits differently than it would on a Sugary Girl doll. So I'm going to put her back into her regular costume for display, for sitting on my desk. But Momotale dolls, you can customize the face, you can customize the hair. You will need to give them a nice haircut in order to trim up those choppy layers. And they can wear 1/8 size clothing. So, um, yeah, thank you for joining me for Momo Tales and this little epilogue that I wanted to cover before we left the Momo Tales doll series alone. I may end up getting that one other Momo Tales doll. If I do in the future, then look forward to that box opening. But until that time, we'll just have to enjoy our Lily of the Valley doll. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this in-depth review and are as passionate about dolls as I am, don't forget to like the video. Give it that magical thumbs up. It keeps us motivated and really helps the channel grow. Make sure to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you won't miss what's next. We have got an incredible number of new BJD and MJD dolls arriving over the next few months. Don't tell my editor, but I've counted up my pre-orders and prepare for well over 30 new dolls. There is a doll for every collector, and hopefully you'll find your dream dolls too. Live it vicariously through my budget, and let's celebrate neurodivergent hyperfixations together. If you're just finding us now, we have got a treasure trove of over 30 doll videos in our back catalog waiting for you to explore. If you also enjoy puzzles and card games, please check out our other playlists. Drop a comment below and let me know which doll line you're most excited about. I love hearing from you, answering any questions, and growing our doll community together.